Good morning, everyone, and welcome to a short video explanation, this time about the Sacrament of Reconciliation and how we can get the most from it. As you might know, the Sacrament of Reconciliation is God's way of healing us internally of the spiritual and often emotional damage we can build up over life. To understand its value, it helps first to understand how our spiritual well-being and health work. Now, this is a huge topic, so I advise further study of them, but I'll try and summarize here. When we talk about well-being, we are discussing how well our being is able to deal with the normal stresses, strains, and temptations of everyday life. It is deeply linked with health, which is whether our being is working correctly or not. Think of how physical illness is the breakdown of physical health. So when the Bible talks about spiritual well-being, it usually uses the word lavav, or as we know it, heart. When somebody is living a healthy spiritual life, the Bible describes it as being pure-hearted. When someone's spiritual well-being is in a bad place, though, they are described as being hard of heart. The key indicator of good spiritual well-being is empathy. It is where we feel deeply connected to God and to those around us. St. Ignatius of Loyola describes these moments as moments of consolation. On the flip side, when we experience hardness of heart, the key indicator is apathy, and St. Ignatius describes this experience as desolation. Like our physical and mental well-being, our spiritual well-being is constantly in flux. Some days we feel deeply connected to God and those around us, while other days we won't. Many things will affect this. Prayer is the obvious one, as just like we need communion with physical food to maintain our physical body, we need healthy communion with God and other people to support our mental and spiritual health. Other key ways of developing our spiritual well-being are by genuinely performing selfless acts of care for people. The official name for this is corporal and spiritual acts of mercy. Sin, on the other hand, is any action that damages our spiritual health and well-being by harming our relationship with others or God. Lesser expressions of a sin will damage our spiritual well-being, while serious expressions of sin are known as mortal sins because they are like an illness in the soul that, unless healed, will lead to spiritual death, or, as we know it, hell. The reason sins draw us towards apathy and inner emptiness is because while they often feel great at the time, the only way we can take advantage or harm another is by dehumanizing them. Now, as we understand it, to achieve fulfillment, we need healthy relationships with these beings. Dehumanizing them, even slightly then, fundamentally causes friction here. How we address this is, in theory, simple. We sit down with the person we have hurt and have a heart-to-heart conversation, not hiding behind excuses, but working with the other person to mend the damage our or their actions have caused. Now, you may already do this with family, friends, and God in different ways, but the Sacrament of Reconciliation goes deeper, so let's explore how it works. When we start, we begin with the sign of the cross. From this point on, anything you say is between you and God. The priest will help facilitate this conversation, but is sworn to secrecy so that not even the law compels him to speak. If he were to speak, he would be cast out of the priesthood and excommunicated. It is one of the greatest sins someone can ever commit. Understanding this, we can be completely open and honest in a way that is really hard to be with other people. We next can give a small insight into who we are as an individual and say how long it has been since we last went to confession. This is simply a practical step to help the priest better tailor the sacrament for you. If, for example, you said that it had been many years since your last confession, the priest would understand that you might like some more guidance from him on what to say and when. It will also help him give more useful guidance and penance at the end, though, as he will be better able to understand your scenario. Now we confess our sins. It's important that we are genuinely sorry for the damage that they have caused, and that we share even those that we are uncomfortable with. While it should be obvious that a false apology really means nothing, sharing the sins we are uncomfortable with is often the much harder part of confession. These, however, are the most valuable things to confess. When we are uncomfortable with something we have done, it festers in our heart, causing us much emotional and spiritual torment. It is this torment that drives us most to apathy, because it feels like that this is the easiest short-term solution to fixing that festering guilt inside of us. Like with our anxieties, though, the most valuable way of dealing with them is by bringing them to the light and talking them through with someone who cares. Confession is the perfect place for this because both God and the priest are specifically there to help you with these problems. Once we've confessed all that is weighing on our heart, it helps to say to the priest that you've finished. He will then usually offer some advice and provide you with a task through which you make amends for the damaged relationship. We call this your penance, and it will usually be a set of prayers or some small actions that build towards the common good. Now comes the act of contrition. It is a short prayer we either make up ourselves or choose to recite a pre-written one that the priest provides if we are not sure what to say. Simply put, now we have expressed what we feel we have done wrong, we say sorry and ask for forgiveness. Finally, we receive absolution, the forgiveness of our sins by God. This restores the relationship we have with God, and through our closer relationship with Him, we are able to develop our spiritual well-being and empathy to greater heights. Naturally, we will slip up again. It is very human to fall short of the goals we set ourselves. This does not make you a bad person, though. God is always willing to forgive if we are sorry for what we have done, and reconciliation is a wonderful tool He has given us for redemption and growth. If you're interested in exploring this topic further, I will link a video about reconciliation from a priest's perspective. Father Mark gives a really interesting viewpoint that I'd never considered myself, and I found it very useful in my own relationship with reconciliation. I hope you found this video helpful, hope you have a lovely day, and God bless.